everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Garbage Time Takes. As always, I'm here with my co host Bob,
Welcome back.
and you'll notice, returning viewers, that the third member of our three-person pod is missing yet again. Bob, what more can we say that hasn't already been said about Dennis's lack of commitment to the pod?
I'll give Dennis this. He at least had the wherewithal to come up with a suitable excuse, such as a research conference.
Correct.
However, since we start recording after 10 o'clock, I don't know much about research conferences, but normally they're not still going around 11, which is when we're getting this cracking. So, Dennis, this is darn near dereliction of duty, and
Oh no.
we may have to put an APB out for you at some point, Dennis, because
No, no.
what's going on here?
I mean, Bob, I know grad students, they like to get litty every now and then, and conferences are a
Yes.
special occasion to
Yes.
hit the town.
Uh-huh.
All I'm saying is the Denver bar scene better be worth it.
Yes. Yes. There better be some. There better be job offers. There better be, full benefits.
Correct.
401k. Anything. That
Dennis
you can
better
think
be
of.
on shrooms at this moment for missing the pod. On
Oh my!
shrooms or on cloud nine, smoking that zombie.
One of the two. One of the two.
One of the two. But what can you do? The show will go on. The show does go on multiple times now in Dennis's, unappearances. The show goes on. And as always, we're going to give you the best show we can. Bob, I think, since Dennis is here, we don't even have to hardly talk about anything Cincinnati related. So let's just kick off the show. The Detroit Lions, baby. The Detroit Lions. Come on. Come on, Bob.
I told you. I told my mother. She was like, "Hey, where was the Lions gear last week on the pod?" And I said, "Oh, don't you worry. I thought about this. I'm saving my first time wearing Lions gear for when we win and the pod right after that." And sure enough, my line came to be just a magical moment, Derek. Just a magical moment.
It was. Bob, obviously the playoffs would have made it sweeter if we were going in. We don't need to get all Detroit versus everybody and talk about how badly the Lions were screwed in a game that they didn't even play in by the refs. So we won't. We won't talk about how same old Lions stuff happened in a game the Lions didn't even play in.
Yes.
Instead, we'll talk about how sweet it is to eliminate Aaron Rodgers, the bad man, as heavily, quoted by Stephen A. Smith. Lambeau
Yes.
Field, in prime time,
Yep.
first primetime game of the year.
Yep.
Odds stacked against them, the NFL begging, hoping, praying that Aaron Rodgers will win 5 games in a row, go from 4-8 to 9-8, and steal the last wild card spot. The Detroit Lions having been eliminated, for those that watched, in the locker room right before warm-ups. Nothing to play for but pride and a sense of not letting your division rival taste the playoffs either. And Aaron Rodgers, with everything on the line, the playoffs, his potential last home game at Lambeau Field, and what does he do? Throws his third interception of the year to Kirby Joseph with what could be his last pass attempt as a Green Bay Packer. And none other than Jared Don't Be Hating Goff. Getting it done down the stretch, and the Lions convert on 4th down to ice the game.
It was really quite poetic. Just to see the Lions, get off to a slow start, in a game that
Very slow start.
in a game that normally in the past would have been a slow start and a slow finish, and would have just ended up with Green Bay rolling over us, and claiming their spot in the playoffs and us in the dust. But instead, when everybody else had said there's no reason to play, when everybody else had picked the Packers, when
Everyone but Jackson, Michigan's own Tony Dungy, Michigan legend. Thank you, Tony.
Like, when all but 3 people picked the Packers, somehow, someway, Dan Campbell got this team around, and Aaron Glenn, I'll give him credit. I've said plenty of negative things, and I stick by those things that I've said about him all year.
As do I.
However, the defense came ready to play, and they showed up, got the job done, and gave the offense time to get back into the mix. And as we've seen all year, aggressive play calling, aggressive mentality. We're not going to let the game come to us. We're going to go, grab it by the throat and take it for ourselves. And that's exactly what the Detroit Lions did. Now, like you said, Derek, would I have loved to, have made the playoffs with that game? Would it have just been the cherry on top? Absolutely. Was I on ditch watch after the Rams blew it in overtime? Absolutely. However, just absolutely beautiful scenes to see, it come down to the 4th and 2 to ice the game. And
a situation they have not finished that in the past. We saw it against Green Bay when the defense had to make a stand at the end earlier in the season. Saw it against Minnesota when we kicked the field goal instead. There was another instance, too, that I'm blanking on. But, yeah, it's been a couple of times this season where we tried to end it on offense with the last drive of the game, but ultimately had to rely on our defense.
And, we're in a position where we could kick a field goal, make it a 7-point game, play for overtime. Defense is held up most of the day. Would have been an understandable move. But they don't even put it in Jamal Williams' hands, who, passed Barry's record very poetically and gave a nice speech after the game. Didn't put it in DeAndre's hands. They put it right back in the hands of Jared Goff. And Jared Goff, to his credit, executed the play, secured it, and got the first down for us and secured the game, which was just a fitting end to the season, and a career year for him, which I'm just very, very happy to see. This guy was to do a full overview here. This guy was a throw-in, a salary cap dump.
Correct.
Expected. Basically just hot garbage thrown in on the side so the Rams could clear the deck.
Expected by many, including myself, to merely be a bridge quarterback.
Expected to do absolutely nothing but to stay there for a year while we draft another quarterback. And sure enough, as you said, Derek, a bridge. Sure enough, the man came in and just played his tail off. You could say that his playmaking ability isn't always elite, and it's not. You could say a lot of things that he can improve on, which he definitely can. But the one thing that Jared Goff didn't do for us this year that a lot of other quarterbacks in Detroit in the past did was put the ball in harm's way, give it to the other team, and shoot ourselves in the foot, causing us to lose games. I mean, Matt Stafford, love Matt, but the guy was prone to throwing interceptions left and right, which was all part of the plan. But Jared, wasn't going to do anything too fancy, but also wasn't gonna be the reason you lost it necessarily, which is all we could really ask. And
except for the couple times he was, but we won't talk about those.
We'll leave
because those were just as much on the defense as they were on Jared Goff's multiple pick sixes.
Correct. Which got cleaned up, at least.
They did. Did not throw an interception. It was for sure 9. I do not know if it was 10, but definitely the last 9 games. Did not throw an interception. I believe that only turnover was his fumble in Carolina on the center snap exchange.
Yes, correct.
And we went 8-2 in that stretch.
And we went 8-2, which credit to him. And darn it, when the CBS Pick'em released on on last week, guess who was right there with the Detroit Lions? You know me. Derek, he wasn't, but that's okay. That was expected. And,
It was an emotional decision.
even though we didn't even make the playoffs, this has got to be one of my favorite seasons
It's one of mine.
in Detroit in my lifetime of Detroit Lions football, Derek. I mean, I don't know about you. I'll give you a chance to reflect on that for yourself, but the excitement, coming into the season, hard knocks, some expectation, a little bit of expectation, and see us coming up week one. I'm pounding the table over here saying, sold out crowd. You know the story, Derek. Gotta beat Philadelphia. We come out there, we almost do it, just fall just short. We fall on our face a few more times, but we're always in the fight the whole game, except New
Correct.
England.
Mm-hmm.
And then manage, you know what? Season looks same old Lions. I mean, we were on thin ice, as Derek said. I remember at the time, we were on this thin ice from being on the banned list and being declared SOL.
Correct.
And we managed, and what did we manage to do? Turn it around against the bad man, and then we just didn't look back. And just the belief and the fervor and the energy that the players had. And what have I been preaching for all the years that this pod has existed, Derek? For the Lions to turn around, what do they need? Winners, intangibles.
Correct.
And this year, we saw the development of some winners and tangibles. Some, things weren't looking good. Games were teetering in the balance. Normally, we'd commit a horrible penalty and fold. But this year, that wasn't the case. And that just makes me all the more excited for next year. I cannot wait to see what we have next year. What some of our young guys continue to turn into, what Hutch can do, what J-Mo will become when he gets to fully unleash, who we can bring in to help solidify the secondary. If any free agents are going to be really enticed, to get
I hope so.
A couple more big names on the roster, and hopefully secure the North next year. Derek, your thoughts?
Yeah, so we'll start with your very first point, this being one of the most enjoyable, most fun line seasons you've sort of ever experienced, and I would agree. The only season for me that really rivals it, that I really remember vividly, is 2016, when Matthew Stafford set the new league record for most comeback wins in a season.
Yep.
With 8.
Yep.
That was an electric season. We went 9-7 that year, and 8 of our 9 wins were on the last drive of a game, pretty much. And yeah, outside of that, I don't think I've ever had as fun of a season watching a team miss the playoffs. To start 1-6, to finish 9-8, above 500 for the first time since 2017, and to finish above 500 with the defense that was
abysmal.
You're in my favorite word, of all time to describe poor defenses in any capacity. A sieve. An absolute sieve for almost 18 weeks. I mean, even in that Packers game, if they didn't force timely turnovers, the Packers punted, I believe, one single time.
It was not a season of punts.
Not a season of punts. But the Lions defense did a lot of things well with a lot of players that aren't very good. There are very few players on that starting defense that would have started for the elite defenses and even playoff teams of the NFL. I don't think Will Harris would be starting for any team in the league. I don't think a guy like, as much as I love him, Isaiah Buggs is probably starting for many teams in this league. Certainly, our secondary outside of Jeff Okuda probably is not getting starting spots in the league. Mike Hughes, not even Kansas City wanted him, and Kansas City's secondary has been suspect for years. Um, losing Deshaun Elliott hurt. He's probably the only secondary guy that could probably start elsewhere. And then I don't think Alex Anzalone is starting for many teams, to be honest. He put
Although,
together,
although I do see
he
a lot of
closed
Lions fans that
strong.
want him back. I do see a lot of Lions
He
fans that want him back, though.
he closed strong, and I think he's a good veteran presence in the locker room. But I would be disappointed if Alex Anzalone was the starting linebacker for the Lions teams that went to the playoffs, because clearly we would not have been addressing that position as properly as I would like to. But there's no question about it. Alex Anzalone played really well against Green Bay, actually. And Alex Anzalone does really well against teams that don't really use their tight ends much and don't have true running back threats out of the backfield. That's where Alex Anzalone is really good. When he doesn't have to worry about defending Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard out of the backfield or Miles Sanders or stop a running
Ramondre
quarterback.
Stevenson.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, or have to deal with trying to chase down Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields. I mean, when he doesn't have to do the things that the elite linebackers have to do, Alex Anzalone is definitely serviceable. But I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Point is, and I said it in our group chat, said it in a couple other group chats. This was as fun a Lions season as I can remember in my many, many, many years of watching Lions football. Um, I mean, we saw it from beginning to end, tangible improvement. Some of the wins in close games that we would have liked to see earlier in the season, and now you look back and say, man, if only we could have beat Minnesota or beat Seattle. And for me, it's kind of hard to think that way because who knows how the rest of the season would have gone. If we would have beat Minnesota, would we have fired Aubrey Pleasant and sort of turned around a lot of the communication errors that were occurring in the secondary? Maybe not. Maybe we win that game, but we lose the Chicago game, lose the Green Bay game. So there's, as much as I'd like to be in the playoffs, I don't regret, losing the games that we did. So I think they were great learning moments for the team. And like I said, very young team. Very young team. We're going to have, what, 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. That's 5 top 100 guys, basically. And we look forward to next year. And, after Hard Knocks, it was easy to buy into hype on this team. For a team that really wasn't that good, I mean, over under of wins was 6.5 for this team. Um, and the fact that the NFL did not give us a single primetime game outside of Thanksgiving said a lot about the league's perception of the Lions, even though they were coming off of Hard Knocks. And the Lions gave us a really fun season. And when you don't make the playoffs, that's about as much you can ask for. Either get the number one pick or have a really fun season. And we fortunately had that. And like you said, it's a team that will be competing for the North next year. It's going to be difficult, but the rest of the NFC North is going to have to play the AFC West too. And so if the Lions can beat the Raiders, which I think they should be able to, and they can beat the Broncos, I think if they can split the AFC West, go 5-1 in the division again, probably take 3 out of 4 from the South. The Ravens may not have Lamar next year. We always get ref showed in Dallas, so I'm already chalking up that one as a loss because we just always get ref showed in Dallas. A lot of people set the bar at 12 wins. I think that's a fair bar. My more realistic bar is 11 wins. And I think 11 wins is probably enough to win that NFC North next year. I think 11-6 gets it done. Minnesota finished what? 13-4, they're due to regress big time. You don't win 11 one-score games year after year after year. Um, so yeah, looking forward to it, but certainly want to appreciate this season because Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes have got something special cooking, and after the disaster that was Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, it was very much needed.
Yeah, I mean, really anything to right the ship after that, anything to get a glance of hope. After so much, talent that we thought we were building on walked out the door, and just
shipped him out the door, kicked him out of the city, basically.
Just the culture that was present there just wasn't anything that we really wanted.
Matt Patricia should be in jail. He should be in jail for what he did to Detroit.
But yeah, no, it absolutely. I mean, stunning season, and I'm chomping at the bit already for next year. I cannot wait for Lions football a year from now, and I hope that this time after next season, we'll be sitting here talking about the first playoff game since 2016.
Correct.
And hopefully the first ever division title in the history of the North. For the Lions, which how nobody has even talked about
how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won the division more recently than the Lions have. We'll never know.
I just don't understand how you never. I mean, you hear about the fact that we haven't made the playoffs, whatever. You hear about the fact that the drought since we've been in the playoffs, since we won a playoff game. Nobody ever mentions the division thing, but
fortunately,
and that's and that's you only have to be the best of 4 teams for that. So, right. So that one irritates me maybe even more than anything, which is why I always had my brown paper bag out here with 4th in the North on the back.
You can burn it, Bob. Did you burn it in the bonfire yet?
The lighter sparked up, and it's in the bonfire. It's over.
Correct.
2nd in the North. Eat our dust, Green Bay. Eat our dust, Chicago. Who somehow get the first pick, which is just disgusting.
I don't even want to talk about that game. It made me very upset. Very upset.
So, congratulations to the Detroit Lions. Keep it up. Do not take your foot off the gas. You haven't...
Hutch, baby! Defensive Rookie of the Year!
You've proved that you're not walkover bums. Now you need to prove that you're something.
Correct. And one last thing. I don't think it'll take too long. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. I wanted to get your thoughts, and maybe you don't have too many thoughts. I don't know how much Lions football you watched during the Jim Caldwell era.
The Jim Caldwell era.
And I saw an article today. I won't even give this organization the credit because I think their content sucks.
9-7 wasn't good enough.
I saw an article that said, why is Dan Campbell's 9-8 different from Jim Caldwell's 9-7? And it wasn't entirely a Jim Caldwell defense piece. It was actually more well written than I thought it was going to be. But it just got me thinking what other people thought about Jim Caldwell. Because I see a lot of Jim Caldwell defenders saying we should have never fired him. And so I just didn't know what your thoughts are on Jim Caldwell are, because mine are very strong.
Well, here's what I'll say about Jim Caldwell from my memory of him. I mean, the most competitive teams we had in recent memory were with Jim Caldwell. That's not really going to be disputed. But to be fair, we weren't really looking at a high bar either before or after Jim Caldwell. So what we have to compare him to is really not the standard of which we want to set. The thing is that Jim Caldwell is a somewhat, a much more competent head coach than either of those guys. And so by, approximation, he was the guy that you wanted. However, those teams that Jim Caldwell was coaching were some of the, at least in my memory, some of the more talented teams that we actually had. So
They were.
I think the Jim Caldwell hate from my perspective is not necessarily that he got hating on he did get us the most wins that we really had in recent memory, and brought us to some competitive spots, which is good. I mean, for a franchise that doesn't really get that, it's understandable. But there was a reason we moved on from Jim Caldwell. It wasn't because we thought Jim Caldwell was a crappy coach. It was because we thought that Jim Caldwell underperformed with what he had. And for whatever reason, we wanted to go with somebody with a more proven pedigree who, hopefully, at the time, I think this was the thinking at the time. We wanted to go to someone with more proven pedigree in Matt Patricia, Belichick tree, to try to take us from, okay, we're a wild card team, kind of, teetering, to we want to win the division. We want to, take the next step over the top. We got Stafford. We've got a lot of, key talented pieces at the wide receiver position. At the time, the defense was what it was. It was all right. But Jim Caldwell wasn't. He was underperforming for a position where he was supposed to be taking the next step. Dan Campbell, on the other hand, to kind of because you said the piece was kind of contrasting them. Dan Campbell's team was supposed to be 6.5 wins, and they are 9 wins. Jim Caldwell's team was supposed to be 11 wins, and he was 9 wins. So it wasn't that Jim Caldwell didn't get 9 wins, or they're not similar records. They are, but one was supposed to be here and underachieved, and one was supposed to be here and overachieved. That is at least my thought on it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. My big issue with Jim Caldwell was one, his laid back demeanor.
That too.
It you always thought Jim Caldwell was watching a funeral when he was coaching football. There was no passion there.
Nope.
And he was an offensive coordinator. I can't remember if it was for the Colts team that won the Super Bowl. I want to say it was something like that. So it's not like Jim Caldwell was some scrub by any means. But the fact of the matter was, the man was 4-25, including our 2 playoff losses against teams with above 500 records. He beat the teams he was supposed to beat and did not beat the teams that he needed to beat to establish Detroit as a true threat to anything beyond just making it to the
mediocrity.
And that was always my big thing. I think 2 things can be true. Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were horrible hires, but it can also be true that Jim Caldwell was not doing an adequate job with the roster he had, and that changes needed to be made. Both things can be true.
Derek, I'm getting very Dwayne Casey-esque vibes from Jim Caldwell,
They very much are.
Well, the demeanor, you brought up a good point there, because Jim Caldwell, there was no animation. It was level. It was the same thing throughout. When you watch a Pistons game, Dwayne Casey, St. Jude's pin on the suit, arms crossed, standing there the whole time with the same look on his face. No energy. No. Really, really, even I'll say for Dan Campbell,
I don't even know what Dwayne Casey does, to be honest.
Correct. With Dan Campbell, not even. Dan Campbell brings a connection to the city. People want to show up and they care, they're invested. Jim Caldwell, I'm not feeling the same. I didn't feel the same level of excitement. I didn't feel the same. And those teams were objectively, probably better than the ones that we were looking at this year. They were objectively better. And for whatever reason, we didn't have the same excitement. And like you said, Derek, I think that's a fair analysis. We were middle of the road. We were utter mediocrity.
They were the walking definition of mediocrity. Perfectly average, almost. So yeah, that was always my big problem with Jim Caldwell and his game management. There were a lot of times where Detroit would go to a stall offense all the time. all the time.
We weren't
I
weren't
hated
playing
every
we weren't
second.
playing to win. We weren't playing to, like I said, grab the opponent by the neck.
And Jim Caldwell also employed both Joe Lombardi and Jim Bob Cooter as his offensive coordinators. Um,
Great name.
just two of the all-time worst offensive coordinators that I've ever had to witness.
I mean,
And I witnessed Scott Linehan and despised every second of it.
now
But
here's the thing, Derek, and I'll bring up this story because this is funny, but this is a great defining feature of the Jim Caldwell, and then what it would end up being the Matt Patricia era.
okay.
Uh, the fact that you and I could sit in our college dorm room, turn on the Lions game, and we would call an offense exactly to a T of what the Lions were going to run.
Jim Bob Cooter was very predictable.
Run on first down. Run on second down. 1 yard in a cloud of dust. With LeGarrette Blount.
LeGarrette Blount, Bob. LeGarrette Blount, the 2-yard special.
And then, inevitably, 3rd and 7, pass.
Correct.
I mean, it was the simplest definition of an offense. There was no spice. There was no pizzazz. It was just bland noodles with butter. That's what it was. Noodles with butter. Not even any salt and pepper. Not even an ounce of tomato sauce on it. And that's kind of the Jim Caldwell, Matt Patricia era. Except Matt Patricia just did it way worse.
Correct. Here's the last thing I'll say about this. My personal opinion is that if Jim Caldwell was that good of a coach, he'd still be a head coach. He would have immediately got a head coaching job after the Lions released him if he was as good of a head coach as some Lions fans thought he was.
Yeah.
At the time he was fired, he would have been 61. He's now 67.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of old head coaches in the league.
Yep.
Pete Carroll is 70. Bill Belichick is 70. Andy Reid is 64. Ron Rivera is 60. John Harbaugh is 60. Mike McCarthy's 59. Todd Bowles is 59. So it's not like age at the time he was fired was keeping Jim Caldwell out of head coaching circles. Fact of the matter is, he's just not very good.
He's noodles with butter.
He's the definition of mid.
Noodles
he
with
was
butter.
the definition of mid.
And who are franchises looking to bring in? They're looking to bring the new hot shot play caller. The new young, the young guy with pizzazz. The Sean McVay types. The Ben Johnsons. Those kind of guys that, have some spice in the offense and, take a team that looked like they were mid to above average. Jim Caldwell, while he's got, he's very mediocre. He's not gonna make you look terrible, but he's not gonna embarrass you, but he's not gonna get you over the top. At least that's my take on from his time from Detroit, and I think you put it very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know why it just always it always gets me going a little bit when I see people defend Jim Caldwell like he was the greatest coach in Lions history, which he was, but that wasn't saying much.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I prefaced my comments by saying, when you're looking at Jim Schwartz and you're looking at Matt Patricia, and then all the other coaches around those early 2000s era.
Steve Mariucci, Wayne Fonts.
Correct.
Rod Marinelli.
Correct.
Oh, man, Rod.
I mean,
those were some very disastrous years.
I mean, when you're looking at those guys on being the bookends of the Jim Schwartz era, it's easy to see when we're getting annihilated and embarrassed in the Matt Patricia era, why we'd be like, we'd do anything to have Jim Caldwell, because at least Jim Caldwell will win us some games that we're supposed to win.
Correct.
But, if we're a team that's, realistically trying to be a competent franchise, and actually win a division once every 10 years and make a playoff game once every 3 years or 4 years. Jim Schwartz, or not Jim Schwartz, Jim Caldwell rather
Wasn't getting
wasn't really that guy.
correct. So yeah, I was just curious what your thoughts on it were. I was also curious what Dennis's thoughts on it were, but he's not here.
That's
So
right.
thank you, Dennis,
Thank you,
for your
Dennis.
thoughts.
Thank you, Dennis.
Very informative. The Bengals, Bob.
Yep.
We'll discuss them briefly.
We will.
All year, you've been waiting for the R word, regression.
Yep.
Earlier in the season, you thought you had it.
Yep. It was looking bleak.
But I was quick to say and draw the parallels to last year's team that went on a run in the second half of the season. And sure enough, what do you know? The Bengals, almost in perfect parallel, go on a run in the second half of the season, get it together, and are very clearly a top 3 team in the AFC. I don't think if you told me that the Bengals were going to the Super Bowl, I would bat an eye. Wouldn't bat an eye at the Bills going to the Super Bowl. Wouldn't bat an eye at the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. I think the winner of the Super Bowl will come out of the AFC. And I would take any 3 of those teams over the Eagles, which is why it would be so embarrassing and humiliating if they lost to the Ravens, who won't have Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I'll give it to Dennis because I'm sure I'll listen to this at some point. You did a turnaround. The regression is looking extremely unlikely, but I will say you do have one more bar to clear. I'm not out of the hunt just yet. I don't have to give my concession speech just yet because we do have one more ball game that you could embarrass yourself in. Not that I'm hoping that happens by any means, but you're 9.5 point favorite. I mean, a little bit, just a little bit because wanting to be right, but I don't want Dennis to be devastated by a loss to the Ravens.
Which he would be.
That would be just disgusting. Okay, I don't want anything close to that. This is a game that they should win, and I don't want to watch the Ravens play after this game. So at least I get to see Cincinnati play a team that will actually be a fun game, hopefully. So, I mean, this is a no-brainer. I think we're both taking Cincinnati to win this game. I am a little bit disappointed that Lamar's not going to play. I think that was really the Ravens' kind of last hope. And maybe the game ends up being, something if Lamar plays. But he's not, which, like you said, Derek, just leads to absolute devastation. Hopefully the Bengals don't get caught with their hand in the cookie jar looking ahead, to the next matchup. But, the AFC looks to be stout this year.
It's stacked.
I don't know.
I mean, let's play a little game, Bob.
Yeah.
You want to play a little game?
Sure.
Playoff quarterbacks. Rank them.
I actually just saw some lists were coming out about that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so okay, are we doing just for the whole game, not just regular straight up ranking? Who
just straight up which quarterbacks are you ranking?
Okay.
In terms of the playoffs. So I don't know if you want to pull up.
Yeah, I got the teams up here. So hopefully I'll be able to remember the quarterback reach down. I'm sure I will. Number 1.
I think 1 through 3 is interchangeable.
1 through 3.
Well, maybe 2 and 3. I think Patrick Mahomes.
I wouldn't go interchangeable. I'd say Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Not necessarily because his record against Cincinnati is good, which is not, and I know Dennis would be screaming that if he were here right now, so Dennis, I will acknowledge that. However, the stats just speak for themselves. Men lie, women lie. The numbers don't, and Patrick Mahomes is going to win himself a second MVP.
I agree. He should.
This year. I'm really sad for Jalen Hurts. I think he would have had a legitimate chance of winning it if he had not gotten hurt. So I do feel for him because he had really exceeded expectations, I think, this year and had a heck of a season. Yeah, number one, I would say Patrick Mahomes. Number
I would
two,
as well.
number two, I would go with Joe Burrow. Um,
I
I
think that's fair. I could interchange Burrow and Allen.
yeah, I think I would go with Joe. Um, just personal preference there. Um, but just because Josh Allen's running ability, I think, is really underrated, and why he's definitely third on the list. Still very high on the list. But I also feel like Josh Allen tends to put the ball in harm's way quite a bit. He tries
A
to
little bit.
he tries to be flashy. I wonder if it has anything to do like if he, I don't know if players actually think about this kind of thing, but I wonder if he subconsciously is like, it's me and Mahomes kind of thing, and so wants to beat Mahomes in his own game. I'm gonna try to be flashy. I'm gonna try to push the ball down the field, and the guy runs very well, and I'm always afraid that guy is gonna get hurt every time he takes off with the ball, just because I feel like he's always trying to truck people over and stuff like that. But he's a very good quarterback, and obviously I'd love to have Josh Allen quarterbacking my team. Now number 4 is when you start getting into a little bit more dicey territory here. Okay, so you've got after that all right.
It's Hurts for me.
Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing the Eagles having a game because they're the 1 seed.
Oh, right, right.
But Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts for sure. Jalen Hurts, number 4, number 5. Okay, so now we're starting to get into the dicier territory because
And let's assume for the sake of this little exercise that Lamar and Tua would be playing,
Oh, okay.
even though now we know Lamar is
Okay.
out.
Yeah, sure.
But obviously Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson are going to be 13-14. Like, no, they're
Yeah.
objectively worse than Brock Purdy, who is a complete
Sure.
hunt.
Sure, yeah.
So
I'd put Lamar right behind Jalen then at that point.
okay.
I honestly, if they were both, it's tough because now Lamar's been hurt for so long. I don't have my memory file is updated, but Lamar did win an MVP in this league.
He did,
which can't be denied. Him and Hurts are right there. Those two are really interchangeable for me, I would say. So now when you're looking at what does that put us at now 7?
this
6?
next one will be 7, yeah, because
Yeah,
I would
7.
have Justin Herbert at 5.
Mm.
Yeah, so you're at Mahomes,
Mahomes.
Burrow, Allen, or Allen Burrow. Jalen Hurts is 4. So you would have had Lamar Jackson
5.
at 5.
Yep.
I would have Herbert at 5 and Lamar at 6.
Okay. Okay. So I think I'll go. I guess I'll go. I think I'll go Herbert next. Really, I really don't know what to think of that. I still have no idea what my mind is on that guy. Clearly, all the tools in the world to be successful. I just want to see like a run. Like I just want to see like him like just go out there and prove it.
I do too.
Just to manifest. And he's got his work cut out for him in his first game. I think the Jaguars have a very legitimate chance of winning that game.
They certainly do.
So that puts us at now number 8, I believe.
7.
7.
This next one will be 8.
This next one will be 8. Yes. Okay. Yeah. At that point, I think I'm going.
Wait.
I'm sorry. I keep forgetting this.
No, this next one will be 7. That was 6.
Okay, 7.
Yep.
Oh God.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
You have Tua. You have
Yep. Okay. I think I know where I want to go. I think I know where I want to go with this. I think I'm going
Thomas Patrick Edward Brady. That's who I'm going with at 7. Because Brady clearly
he's
isn't at the level of the 6 guys above him anymore. but you
Okay,
can't count him out. And I certainly trust Tom
I trust
Brady.
him more than any of those guys. You're right. You're right.
Correct.
After
Correct.
that, after Tom, I'm going Dak because I quite simply I want to go Kirk Cousins, but there's no way I could take Dak or Kirk over Dak because I'm pretty sure whenever they play, Kirk always loses.
True.
And he never looks good. I mean, heck, he lost to Cooper Rush
He did.
twice in a row. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
So I'm going Dak. I mean, and then you got the freaking Trevor Lawrence. I don't even know what to think of him. He's coming on. I'm probably going Trevor Lawrence, then Kirk.
Are you sleeping on Daniel Jones, Bob?
I need to see it from Daniel Jones.
Okay. Okay.
Daniel Jones, he's had a nice. That's why I have a tough time ranking like him, Kirk, and Trevor Lawrence, Kirk, and Daniel Jones because
You haven't seen it.
I haven't. Kirk Cousins is at least been in this league. He's a known quantity. Sometimes he'll play really, really good. Sometimes he will play really, really bad.
The new nightmare, Bob.
Yep. And that's the same kind of thing that I've seen so far in their short careers with Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones. Now, Trevor Lawrence is a lot younger and he still has a lot of time to progress. Daniel Jones, younger, but he's been a disaster area and basically on the verge of the chopping block until like 3 seconds ago. So, okay, I'll go Trevor Lawrence, Kirk, Daniel Jones.
Okay. I'm going to go where you put Dak. I'm going to put Trevor Lawrence.
That's fair.
And then I'll put. I mean, I've got to see it from Dak. We haven't seen it from Dak either. Dak had one playoff game.
But
Dak
I'm
had
ranking
one
him against
playoff
Kirk. I'm trying to compare him against Kirk.
Man, it's tough.
Like
Against my better judgment,
mm-hmm.
I will put Dak ahead of Daniel Jones, and I'll put Daniel Jones ahead of Kirk.
Oh
Because
my!
I think the Giants could. I think the Giants might beat Minnesota.
I mean,
Honestly,
they very well. Could.
I do.
think they very well could, and it very well could be.
I think the thing that's
Kirk Cousins blowing it for him, but it also, but I also could see a world where Daniel Jones blows it for the Giants.
The problem is that Minnesota didn't they just beat the brakes off of the Giants?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh no, they didn't beat the brakes off of them. It was only 27-24. So that game was actually pretty competitive, and Daniel Jones actually outthrew Kirk Cousins. So yeah, this could be a very interesting game.
I
just don't.
I'm like borderline thinking like I might want Tua above Daniel Jones. So I'm not gonna lie.
No.
I'm like flirting with that.
If you put Daniel Jones in Miami's offense and Tua in the Giants' offense, the Miami Dolphins would get infinitely better with Daniel Jones. Infinitely.
I mean, maybe.
So I'm putting Tua behind Kirk.
So you got Kirk at the last of Lawrence, Jones, Cousins. You got him last. Kirk.
And behind Dak, yes.
And behind Dak. I had him behind Dak too.
Yeah. It goes Trevor, Dak, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Tua, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Tua. Yeah.
Because I've always been a Tua hater. I didn't want the Lions to draft him last year. I was very thankful.
I mean, at this point, I've got to go Tua after At this point, was it Jones? Tua after Jones,
and then Brock Purdy.
And then Brock Purdy. But then next.
We forgot about Geno Smith. Geno Smith is behind Brock. Geno Smith is dead last for me. I do not believe in Geno Smith one bit. Geno Smith
Yeah.
had the fortune of playing a very weak early season schedule where he inflated his numbers against
Mm.
bad teams or bad defenses like our own Detroit
Brock
Lions.
Purdy actually looked like good. Like actually looks kind of decent.
Brock Purdy is the perfect quarterback for the 49ers. He's a perfect 49ers quarterback for that scheme. Honestly, as much as I've hated on Jared Goff this year, he should have been a Pro Bowler over both Kirk Cousins and Geno Smith.
Thank you.
Easily,
I said that
easily
too.
should have been a Pro Bowler. Um, I mean, he was easily a top three quarterback in the NFC this year. He outplayed Rodgers,
Mm-hmm.
outplayed Brady, outplayed
I
Kirk,
thought so at the time.
outplayed Geno, outplayed the entire NFC South,
Mm-hmm.
outplayed the entire NFC West,
Mm-hmm.
and outside of Hurts, there weren't. I don't think there were too many quarterbacks in the NFC that had a better season than Jared Goff did, which is why I think it's silly how early Pro Bowls are voted on
Yeah.
because
So
Jared Goff was snubbed.
all right.
He was snubbed.
Let's see if I can recite my final list here.
Okay.
Okay. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, top three. Number 4, Jalen Hurts. Number 5, Lamar, if he was playing. Number 6, Herbert. Number 7, after that, Tom Brady. Number 8, after Brady, I have Dak. After Dak, I have Trevor Lawrence. Then Kirk Cousins. Then Daniel Jones. Then Tua. Then Brock Purdy. Then Geno Smith. Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure I got that straight. But that's where my list is. But honestly, once you get to like the number 8 or 9 mark, for me,
There's a lot of interchangeability.
it's like it really is like any given Sunday. Like, because I like Tua a lot, and I feel bad ranking him so low. But at the same time, the guy's been like concussed 17 million times at this point. And like, I don't know what I'm gonna expect out of him. I feel bad for the guy.
Right.
I mean, like I said, Daniel Jones, I was bad until 3 seconds ago. Kirk Cousins played a long time in this league, made a lot of money. Do I trust him? Some days I wish I trusted him because he makes everybody look like, why the heck are you doubting me? But other days he's just garbage. Trevor Lawrence, what do we have? I mean, he's all the talent in the world. Once again, like Justin Herbert, another guy, all the talent in the world. Can we trust him to get it done? Well, I mean, one of them's gonna have to win.
This is a very big year for prove-it quarterbacks. Herbert, Lawrence, Jones, Dak, Kirk. Yeah, those 5 really.
If Dak, your brother, if he watches this, I just want him to know, Derek. If the Dallas Cowboys lose this game on Monday,
Would be a disaster.
Revoke fandom, and pick up one of these jerseys right here because, I mean, this is a team
surely the Cowboys cannot go 0-8 versus Tom Brady.
I mean,
surely
not. You would think.
Surely on the season they cannot go 1-5 on grass.
I mean, this is a team.
Surely.
I mean, Tampa has just been bad. I've been waiting for them to take off. I didn't think it was possible that this could happen, and they have just been bad.
Horrible.
And
all year they've looked bad.
And the defense has been spotty at best, and the offense has just been not good. The line has been horrible. Tom's missed some throws. The wide receiving core is definitely not what it used to be. Gronk didn't come back, which he was gonna if they had any sort of money for him, but they don't because they're broke. But if them boys lose to a team that has been reeling that bad, I mean, That's. I mean, Mike McCarthy should be fired on the spot.
And I think he will.
As you said in the Snapchat group, if the Dallas Cowboys lose that game, it's on the tarmac for Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I think it would be. Here's the thing. You've got arguably two of the worst head coaches in all of football in this game. Todd Bowles and Mike McCarthy. Two dudes who have just goobered and goofed and blundered their way into success against all odds. And I just don't know who to trust. I don't know who to trust. Can I trust Todd Bowles, the man that was an absolute dumpster fire with the New York Jets? Can I trust Mike McCarthy, who without quite literally an almost god team with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers' early prime winning a Super Bowl and not doing anything since then? I don't know who to trust. Don't know who to trust. Don't know who to take in that one. But yes, if the Cowboys lose...
You want to just do a quick rundown of some of these other games while we're at it?
Sure, might as well. Chargers, Jaguar. This is a big week for the pick'em.
This is a huge week for the pick'em.
Chargers, Jaguars, for me, is basically a toss-up. Giants, Vikings is basically a toss-up. Cowboys, Bucks, definitely a toss-up.
Yep. I mean, all these lines, I mean, it's playoff time. It's what you would expect. But these are all, I mean, it's either blowout city or it's right like a pick-em ball game. Pick-em ball game. I mean,
the Bengals are clear favorites. The Bills are clear favorites.
The 49ers are clear favorites.
And the 49ers are clear favorites. That's it.
Okay, so let's talk about the ones that actually are discussable then. So Jaguars, Chargers. Justin Herbert is your guy, Derek. I know.
He is. And the Chargers were my team. They were my team.
But they got to go on the road to Duval County and try to prove to two quarterbacks that are trying to see some sort of playoff success and establish themselves.
This is a Jaguars team that in week 3 beat the Chargers 38-10 in LA.
Yep.
It is hard for me to pick this game until I know the status of some of the guys that got injured against Denver when Brandon Staley inexplicably played his starters in a game where he could not improve his seed. So Mike Williams has not practiced all week. I don't know how Bosa is doing. Can I find an injury report to get a feel for how this goes? Because it pretty much comes down to this for me. If the Chargers have Mike Williams and Joey Bosa, then I'm taking them. If the Chargers are missing either of them, then it's going to be very difficult for me to not pick the Jags. But I've been riding with the Chargers all year, never jumped ship, been giving them the benefit of the doubt with all of their inexplicable injuries. So I'm going to take the Chargers out of principle. And because I think the Jags have gotten lucky. I think they've gotten lucky. This is the same Jags team that the Lions absolutely manhandled from start to finish. And those types of things do not leave my mind.
Yeah, I'm actually, believe it or not, gonna also pick the LA Chargers to win this game. And I really can't believe I'm saying that. But you're right. And I think you actually came to the conclusion that I was going to come to, is this is a Jacksonville team that has just caught every break possible. I mean, the Titans...
Every break.
The Titans
just collapsing down the stretch.
The Titans should have beat them. They beat the Texans 31-3. Okay, big whoop. I'm not giving you... You get a cookie for that one, I guess. The Jets were staying and absolutely reeling which they put up 19 points against the Jets. They put up 20 points against the Titans. Okay, whoop-de-doo. And this is a Trevor Lawrence guy that, especially against the Titans last time out, didn't set the world on fire. Darn near cost him the game. And I have literally little to no faith in either of these quarterbacks at this given junction. But I think that the one thing that was making me question the pick more than anything was Brandon Staley.
Also true.
You're looking at a coach in Dougie P on the other sideline who's been there, won a Super Bowl. He's done
Very
that.
Scary. Very scary.
He's a seasoned veteran, Doug Peterson. And
Dougie P knows what he's doing.
And so, if I had a little bit more faith, like a little bit more faith in Trevor Lawrence, if he would have beat the Titans handily this past week, I would have picked the Jaguars to win this game. But because
I think I'm with you.
But because because Lawrence looked so
mid, because the Jags had to win on
just
fluke
so
six.
So mid. They rushed. Their defense did all the work for them. They had. I'm looking at the numbers. Travis Etienne rushed for 17 yards against the Titans. Trevor Lawrence, 20 of 32, 212 for a tub. Mid. Pedestrian. Not going to lose you. Not going to shoot yourself in the foot, but at the same time, didn't do anything to give me a whole lot of faith. And so, for that reason, I'm gonna stick with you. But Brandon Staley very well could be the difference, because this game is more than likely going to come down to some definite coaching moments in a pick-em ball game.
Could also be coaching for his job here.
Correct.
Because the Chargers have underperformed for a couple of years now.
Yep.
And granted, injuries have been an issue, but
They have. But you can't keep saying that every single year, as I've said.
Correct. Giants Vikings.
Oh my
Absolute crapshoot. Gosh, it's so hard.
Derek, I'll go first on this one, Derek. I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a chance to react to what I have to say.
Okay.
I'm actually going to pick the Giants to win this game. And I think there's really only one reason I have to do this. And I think it may be, if you end up taking the Giants, it may be the same reason that you do it. Minnesota is just the flukiest of all flukes. The Giants, I guarantee you, the Giants have absolutely no fear of the Minnesota Vikings at all. And it's a 4:00 game. Is Kirk Cousins going to show up? I don't know. The defense has not been good. The defense for the Vikings has not been good at all. Kirk Cousins has either looked like a world beater or arse. It's really just a matter of, if the Giants are going to let Justin Jefferson have a field day, then that very well could be the defining moment. If Justin Jefferson can have a field day and the Giants can overcome it, that may be the path to victory. Or we're going to take away Justin Jefferson and just let everybody else have a field day. I don't know. I'm going to have a little bit of faith in Daniel Jones, I guess. He's looked good recently. He's looked more hot recently. I would say that team has been more energized as of late. With his play, they're starting to buy into him a little bit. From what I've been watching them, so I think it's going to be tough on the road, but I think I'm going to go with the underdog in this one. Both of them, actually. Well, I guess the Chargers are favorites, but pick them away in that one too.
Yeah, it's so hard because I just think offensively, Minnesota's so much better. I mean, you got Justin Jefferson,
Yeah.
you've got the boy TJ Hawkinson. Even though I think he's a scrub, he's still,
Putting up
a
numbers.
top half tight end in the league. Could be top 10. Um, Obviously,
Dalvin Cook.
Justin Jefferson, but Dalvin Cook
Yep.
is just as equal as Saquon Barkley. Adam Thielen would be a very reliable number two, number three guy anywhere in the league. And I don't know if the Giants pass defense will be able to hold up. And granted, they lost on a 61-yard field goal as time expired against Minnesota only a couple
I
weeks
mean, one
ago.
thing you do know about the Giants, though, is they will play hard. They
They
will.
will.
They will. Brian Dable has, I think, quite clearly exceeded expectations and had the Giants ready to play in some big spots this year, which I do like.
So here's what I'm going to take. I'm going to take the Vikings, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're the frauds of frauds,
Mm-hmm.
which means if they win this game,
Mm-hmm.
I can say, all right, they won this game. It's good for my pick 'em.
Mm-hmm.
And they won a game they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a game they're supposed to win.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the Giants sort of lucked their way into this by also playing a very soft early season schedule. And if that game against the Commanders wouldn't have been a tie, the Lions would be in the playoffs instead right now. Um, and if the Vikings lose, I can say frauds, proven, week one playoff loss. Um, and honestly, if they were playing literally any other team but the Giants, I would have taken
The other team.
either Dallas or Seattle. But there's something about the Giants that I just haven't trusted all year. Um, and so for that reason, I've got to take Minnesota against my better judgment.
Yeah,
Got to.
I can't blame you there. That one is just a razor thin margins.
Gross.
Um, I guess that brings us down to the Monday night game. Tampa Bay, Dallas, in Tampa, as you well know. Your brother is probably sick to his stomach already thinking about this.
He's been trying to convince himself with various different stats all week. All week. I sent him this one thing. It was Cowboys win 4 games in a row, lose one game. Cowboys win 2 games in a row, lose one game. Win 2 games in a row, lose one game. Win, lose, win two in a row. And so, like, the next step in the pattern would be to win 4 in a row, which would take them all the way to the Super Bowl. So he's sort of using that as his, well, we've already gone 4-2-2-1-2 or whatever, 4-2-1-2. Surely the next 4 wins are coming. Again, the Bucks are bad. They're a bad team. Uh, but the Cowboys' defense has been lacking as of late. I mean, it's the same Cowboys defense that the Jaguars put up a 40 bomb on. The same Cowboys that gave up 34 points to Gardner Minshew.
But also the same Cowboys that are first in the league in takeaways.
Also, the Cowboys that are first in the league in takeaways. Also, the Cowboys that have the quarterback with the highest interception ratio.
Yes.
And he missed 5 games
Yes.
in the league. So it's really tough. Really tough. Against my better judgment, I'll be taking Dallas. I've been on the Bucks all year as a bad team, but if they win this game, they're going to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just the way it is. If the Bucks win this, they're going to the Super Bowl. Unless they play the 49ers. Then they'll just get rolled again. But if they don't have to play San Francisco, I could see Tampa Bay going to the Super Bowl. But my pick will be Dallas, unfortunately. But I'm sure they'll let me down.
And my pick will not be Dallas. My pick will be Tampa. call me blind, call me a blind lover of Tom Brady, but when it comes down to
gets it done.
When it comes down to pick 'em ball games like this, how am I not going to take Tom Brady? Like you said, I would be very concerned if this was the Dallas defense of the first half of the season, because then I would be able to say, you know what, Tom is going to just have no time to throw the ball. Like has been the story in many games, Tom will have no time to throw the ball. There will be no separation from the receivers. He will have a tough day at the office. What will he do? The defense will be average. It will sometimes look like it, reminiscent of old. Sometimes it will just look like a sieve. But Dallas has to open up a gap in this game early. Because as has been shown with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season, if the game gets late, and mind you, a lot of their comebacks were against teams that weren't as good as Dallas, but
correct.
If the game gets late and they're still in it, Tom just seems to find a way to get him back over the hump.
And he will find a way if it's a one-score game late. No question. So,
I just think Dak Prescott is going to put the ball in harm's way. And he's going to potentially cost his team a playoff win here. Drop the Mike McCarthy will do quite literally nothing. Todd Bowles will do quite literally nothing. Besides, both of those will be a net negative, so those will cancel each other out. If the Tampa Bay, it's really going to come down to if the Tampa Bay defense can hold Dallas at bay for the first half of the game. If this game goes into halftime close, I'm going to be feeling very good about Tampa's chances to win. And I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm just hoping against hope, but I think that somehow the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will find the gear that they've been missing all year. Maybe it's just a matter of they've just been waiting for the playoffs. It's just a foregone conclusion. I don't know. That's what I'm hoping. This is a pure heart pick. Because the Dallas Cowboys on paper are better in basically every quarter or category except maybe the one that matters most. And that is the quarterback. And that might just be... just bear with me for a second. Imagine this. You got Dak Prescott, who's making $40 million a year, in the prime of his career. Last year he made $70 million with the signing bonus, I believe. Going up against a 45-year-old quarterback who can't move out of the pocket at all, is a complete sitting target, and had a team that has been just bad.
Correct.
If you're Dallas, you need Dak Prescott to play like the $40 million man. I'm just not convinced he is going to play anywhere close to a $40 million man. And that is why I think that I'm going to go with the hot take that Tampa wins this game and Mike McCarthy does not get fired.
Wow. I think if the Cowboys lose, he's gone. The Cowboys lose, Mike McCarthy is gone. I don't think Jerry Jones would do everything in his power to... I think Jerry Jones is looking for an excuse to fire Mike McCarthy. And if they lose this with Sean Payton very clearly interested in making an NFL return, there is no question in my mind that Mike McCarthy is fired before Wednesday. He's as good as gone if they lose.
But, Derek, as your brother would remind you, this is Gerald Wayne Jones we're talking about here. The owner and operator of the Dallas Cowboys. Sean Payton is not going to let Jerry Jones run his franchise the way he wants to run it, where he's way hands-on. Sean Payton is going to say, I'm running the show. I'm the face.
I bet Jerry would let him for 6 weeks.
Until the first sign of a crack in the armor. And then Jerry
Correct.
would be...
But by then, Sean Payton's already under contract, and it's too late.
Maybe, but I don't know. Some very interesting games this week. All I gotta
Extremely.
say. All I'm gonna
Totally
say, folks.
agree. Want to get into winners and losers? Oh, the only other thing I wanted to mention. Actually, I'll save it for winners and losers.
Yeah.
It won't be my winner, but it'll be an honorable mention.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we can talk about. Do you have a winner, Bob?
Do I have a winner? Yes, I do, and that is going to be Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams broke
Swag Kazakage, leader of the hidden village of the dead.
Thank you, Jamal. Yeah, I will. Not only breaking the record and all that, and just having this was a guy that I had even less expectations for than Jared Goff coming into the season, and Jamal Williams has earned a spot on this roster as far as I'm concerned for the foreseeable future. The goal line warrior, that is Jamal Williams.
Goal line warrior.
And not only that, but of course having the emotional moment afterwards with the his great grandfather passing away and playing for him and then just an outstanding interview where he flipped the switch in a second to say, why are you down?
Don't let these tears fool you. Don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog in this mug.
Right here. That's all I have to say. Jamal Williams, winner of the week.
You better stop disrespecting us. We're the Detroit Lions. Quote, Jamal Williams. My winner of the week is Carlos Correa for finally passing a physical, allegedly, and officially signing with the Minnesota Twins. Cue the Thanos meme, you could not live with your failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me. And the me is the Minnesota Twins. They actually get him for a little bit cheaper than the original extension they offered him, I believe. Believe it's a 6-year deal. I don't know what the whole situation surrounding his ankle is. Whether there's some sort of clause in there that prevents the Twins from having to pay out his full contract if he gets severely injured or something. I don't know. Don't really care. But Carlos Correa, Giants legend, Mets legend, has now returned to the Twins. So he gets a winner for finally passing a physical. However rigorous that physical may have been. We don't know. Loser, Bobby Epler.
Is
it Aaron Rodgers?
Definitely an honorable mention. But that would just be too obvious of a loser to go for. So I'm going to go with the next most obvious one. The Houston Texans and Lovie Smith. Because
Lovie Smith may be a winner, but I'll let you cook.
Lovie Smith, winner for giving the Birds, the Texans, with a win and then walking out the door, I guess. But also a loser because his team was arse. And he got fired.
Correct.
So, Lovey, you're just going to be left out, I suppose. You've neutralized yourself this week. But the Houston Texans, however, have not neutralized themselves and found themselves square in the loser category because they decided that it would be a good idea to show up and beat the Colts in the one game of the season that you just couldn't win when you lost so many others and you found a way to do it. What are you thinking? Who knows? Maybe the Chicago Bears' priorities are very different from that of the Texans, so they won't have to worry about them picking in front of them. But it's always nice to have the number one pick. And the Houston Texans, by all intents and purposes, were basically penciled in for that, and then somehow found a way to not, to pencil themselves out of that spot. So, a loser of the week goes to the Texans.
If you're the Colts safety, how do you let that pass go through your hands? The number one rule of Hail Mary defense is bat the ball down. You do not try to pick it off.
Nope.
You do not be selfish and try to pad your own stats.
Nope.
You bat it down so that plays like that don't happen.
Yep.
Just an incredible choke. My loser of the week is minor league umpires. As of today, at 5:21 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 hours ago, a report from Buster Olney. All AAA parks to use electronic strike zone in 2023. The robot umps have made their way out of low A and into AAA, and before you know it, could make their way into the MLB. So MLB umpires are on notice, but AAA umpires are the losers because they are no longer in charge of calling balls and strikes. So massive L for umpires. Bob, honorable mention winner, any of them?
Um, I guess I'll go with honorable mention being Seattle because they got in our spot. We did what we had to do. They did what they had to do. Really should have been the last team to end up in the playoffs out of the three, but ended up being the team that made it in. Enjoy your trip to San Francisco, you bums. And you owe us one in the future.
Does Derek Carr count as a winner or a loser for being scapegoated,
I'm
but
trying to.
now he can finally leave the dysfunctional franchise that is the Las Vegas Raiders, who are so broke that they can't fire their head coach because they can't pay his buyout fee.
I I've been asking myself the same question honestly, but
Can we call him a loser, a winner and a
I
loser?
think he's just like Lovey. He just negates himself for the week. You know.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Other news: Peyton Hillis was he yours or Dennis's winner of the week
I
last
think
week?
probably Dennis's.
He was either a winner or we brought it up. He's off the ventilator after rescuing his kids from drowning, as he was pulled through some sort of like super strong current. So he's off the ventilator. Another potential medical miracle for an NFL player,
Hmm.
Peyton Hillis being a former NFL player. You wonder why this hasn't gotten as much coverage nationally. Probably because he didn't die. That's probably why. Um, but very good for the former Madden
I was
NFL
gonna
11
say on the
cover
cover.
athlete for Madden 11 when he had a absolutely crazy run with the Cleveland Browns. Never forget the Bulldog face mask, legendary face mask, popularized by Peyton Hillis. So just wanted to share some good news there. Oh, loser of the week, Michigan football due to TCU football's blowout in the college football playoff. I did not watch the college football playoff because I was very sad that Michigan wasn't there. And then to see them lose 65-7 was very, very sad. It was cathartic in the sense that I knew I felt vindicated that like we would win that game 9 times out of 10, and somehow my reality was the 1 out of 10. Uh, but it also sucked because it was like, how did we lose to that team? And we played the worst game of the entire season, still had a chance to win it at the end, lost by 6. Let's keep in mind that the Georgia team that won the championship last year was arguably better than this one, and we only lost to them 34-11. So just want to put that out there.
Derek, quick thoughts before we move into the right bench baller and whoever percent takes your money. What percent chance do you give at this moment of Jim Harbaugh leaving for the NFL?
25.
25?
I don't think Jim Harbaugh wants to leave. There are many rumors
Hmm.
going around Michigan football circles that Ward Manuel and his shenanigans and refusal to provide a strong NIL collective among some other things, and Harbaugh was not feeling appreciated by Ward Manuel, our athletic director. So our president, Santa Claus, aka Santa Ono, um, stepped in and talked with the athletic department, and today put out a tweet. Let me read the tweet. Um, Yesterday, he had tweeted,
Does it have anything to do with
should be,
NIL money?
no. Yesterday, he tweeted, and I quote, I am looking forward to my meeting with University of Michigan Athletics this morning. I am grateful for all that our coaches and staff do to support more than 900 student athletes across 29 sports. That's what he said yesterday. In the wake of Jim Harbaugh being like literally this close to signing an extension, but then backed out at the last second tonight. Or not tonight, but backed out at the last second because Ward Manuel is acting like a goofball. So today's our university president tweeted, I am pleased to share that I've been having very positive and constructive conversations with our athletic director and football coach. Ward Manuel and I both want to see Jim Harbaugh stay as the head football coach of the University of Michigan Wolverines. And then Jim Harbaugh himself put out a statement saying, I am in full support of President Ono's message to our fans and appreciate his support of me and the team. So I don't think Harbaugh wants to leave. I think his purpose for entertaining the idea of interviewing with the Broncos and the Colts and the Panthers and whoever else is more so not even leverage to get more money, but I think to say, if you're not going to appreciate me, I can walk out the door at any minute. So hopefully our athletic director gets fired for his refusal to just do the bare minimum, and hopefully we get a deal done and Jim Harbaugh can finally stop having to flirt with the NFL year after year. Just give the man what he wants. Let the man pay his assistants whatever he wants so that he doesn't have to replace coordinators every single year, and so that he doesn't have to replace his director of recruiting every other year. Just give the man what he wants. Give the man what he wants. We haven't won back-to-back Big Tens in my lifetime, basically. Give the man what he wants. He shouldn't be the fourth highest paid coach in the Big Ten. That's for sure. So that's my what are now long thoughts that I thought were going to be a little more succinct.
Of course, of course.
Right bench baller Bob, go ahead, lead it off.
Right bench baller this week is none other than LA Laker center Thomas Bryant. Bryant has been coming in and putting in some serious work recently with the injury to Anthony Davis that has kind of derailed the Lakers' season. In the most recent 3 games, he had 29 points, 17 points. And tonight, I'm not sure if their game is still going against the Mavs, but he's in double digits again with 11. So a whole bunch of double-digit games. Looks like almost darn near 10 in a row for Thomas Bryant. So good stuff for him. Glad to see that he's getting the opportunity. He was basically just pretty sure they just picked him up, either off of waivers, G League, or like the street or something, and brought him in. So I'm glad to see that things are working out for him and that he's finally gotten his opportunity and he's definitely make the most of it.
Thomas Bryant, University of Indiana legend. That man.
Correct.
Or is it Indiana University?
Indiana University.
IU. Indiana University legend.
Correct.
Ran the Big Ten amok.
Correct.
We
don't miss you in the Big Ten.
We don't miss it. My right bench baller, also going to stay in the NBA, Miami Heat's Gabe Vincent. Third-year player from none other than University of California, Santa Barbara. He, on the season, was averaging 8.1 points per game, career 7 points per game. And in the Miami Heat's win over the 27-15 Milwaukee Bucks, dropped 28 points, 3 boards, 6 assists, and was plus 11 point differential when he was on the floor. Also added 2 steals. So Gabe Vincent filling in when Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero both sidelined. and just getting it done. Getting it done, Bob.
You'll love to see that. You love to see that.
Garbage time takes your money time, Bob.
I guess so. I don't even know which one of these. I mean, we've talked about them all a little bit, but I guess we're
Mhm.
gonna have to pin it down with some spreads.
I mean, pretty soon we're gonna have to move on to a different sport, Bob.
We are. We're
The
gonna
the
have to move
NBA
to
may the
NBA.
NBA spreads may be calling.
They may be.
Or you could get a little wacky, get into NHL spreads. I mean,
I
the
mean,
the opportunities are endless.
correct.
Last week we had a double dipper. It was the Eagles and the Giants. The spread was -14, and the Eagles did not cover. It was 22-16. So that means me and Dennis both hit the Giants cover. All of us took the under, which was 40 and a half, and we squeaked by with a 2 point margin. So me and Dennis get a fat 2 for 2. Bob gets a 1 for 2. So let me update that quick. And then the second game, the Bengals and the Ravens. Cincinnati was 7.5 point favorites. They covered that handily with the score of 27-16. Yeah, that's right. That feels a lot closer than I remember it's supposed to be being. But they did cover, and the over under was also 40 and a half, but unfortunately, those late scores by the Ravens pushed the total over the over. So that means Dennis Dennis with a fat 4 for 4 week. And Bob, me and you both split. We took Cincinnati to cover, but the under. But a very good week for the podcast. You know, we went 5 for 6 Eagles Giants, 4 for 6 Bengals Ravens. Gives us a solid 9 for 12, 75%. We'll take that, Bob. We'll take it.
We will. And you know what? For the game this week, I think we've got to go because I don't think I quite talked about the spread of this game too much, but it seems to be a very intriguing one. Let's go with the Chargers Jaguars this week for our game for our garbage time takes your money game this week. The Chargers Jaguars line is currently set at Chargers -2.5, and the over
Road
under
favorites.
yep, and over under 47.5.
That feels, that feels a little bit high. I'm not going to lie. So I
And
guess I'll start
yeah,
and take the under because I don't know. I just don't see Jacksonville scoring that much. This has got a real strong, I don't know, it's got a real strong 24-20 type of vibe for me. At most, 27-20, 27-20. So I don't know. The under just calls to me. And then I'll put my money where my mouth is, I guess, and I'll take the Chargers to cover. I think they'll probably win. They'll probably win by a field goal. It's got 27, 27-20 vibes, 24-20 vibes. I don't think the Jaguars pass 20. So I'll take the Chargers and I'll take the under.
I am
Dennis gets an NA since he is absent.
Jacksonville Chargers. I mean, just a crazy game like we already talked about, but I'm going to go with the under as well. But I'm going to take the Jags to cover the 2.5. I think that this is very well could be walk-off field goal mania for a 1 or 2 point victory. Or it even could be a walk-off point mania for the Jaguars in the other direction. So for that reason, I'm going to take the 2.5 points. That's enough for me to be convinced that the Jags could maintain that, and I'll take it that direction.
All right. Well, I don't really have anything more to talk about. Um, again, Dennis's absence can't can only do so much about a man who knows that we have regularly scheduled Thursday podcast every day at 10 p.m.
Yep.
Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain Time,
Yep.
and only letting us know what 4 hours, 6 hours before.
I will say this. I will say this for Dennis. Potentially the most egregious penalty is that we asked him when he did. He did tell us mid afternoon, hey, not going to be able to probably record or may not. It is in doubt at this point. Who knows?
He did.
And I asked him, Dennis, when will you know for sure if you will be able to, record? And he said, I'll probably know in about 2 hours. So that would have put it about 5 o'clock, maybe 5:30
Correct.
ish, that Dennis would have known, hey, I can record, hey, I could not. Give or take an hour. Maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he won't know exactly 2 hours. Maybe it'll be 3 hours. 6 o'clock. We recorded 10, folks. And we actually didn't start today until about 11 o'clock.
Correct.
Or 11 o'clock Eastern. So I'm still waiting on an update from Dennis on whether he'll be able to record tonight. So thank you very much, Dennis, for getting back to us. And hope you're still watching, Dennis.
Yes. Hopefully he doesn't get too mad that I put Josh Allen over Joe Burrow. He'll probably say we were on our way to beating the Bills on Monday night. And I would counter and say, don't forget that the Chiefs were up like 21-3 before you made the comeback against them either in this year's regular season or in the AFC Championship game last year. So
Correct.
can't count your chickens before they're hatched. And hopefully the Bengals don't look ahead, because that would be one miserable podcast next Thursday. Assuming, of course, Dennis doesn't blow us off again. But that would be a miserable podcast, because I know Bob would have to let the clip empty, and he doesn't want to do it. You
Oh,
don't want to
I
empty the
don't
clip,
want to.
Bob.
I don't want to, Dennis. I
You
don't
don't
want
want to
to.
empty the clip, but if the clip has to be emptied, it has to be emptied.
It does. If it has to, it
And it
has
won't
to.
be and it won't be your fault if the Bengals choke it away.
No, it will not. And with that, guys, thank you once again for watching all the way to the end. Feel free to like and comment and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate all the support as always. At Garbage Time Takes on Instagram, at Garbage Time Takes on Twitter. You can find us at both those spots, and the link to our website is in the description of this video. You can check out some of our written content that we've done over the past year.
I got nothing else to add other than Aiden Hutchinson for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Shout it from the mountaintops. Other than that, like Bob said, thanks again so much for watching. And maybe Dennis will be here, maybe not. Bob, how do we even do the countdown this week?
I think we got to do it as we did it in traditional fashion when Dennis wasn't there in the past, and we got to leave a blank second. You do your 3,
Okay.
and then there's a blank, and then I'll do my thing.
Okay, sounds good. Well, as always, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week. And 3.
1, peace.
Peace.